Starmer,
Yes.
UK's newest Prime Minister, has just given his first speech as Prime Minister outside 10 Downing Street. Starmer's Labour Party won a landslide victory and are now in power.
I have just returned from Buckingham Palace, where I accepted an invitation from His Majesty the King to form the next government of this great nation.
Starmer is the first Labour Prime Minister since Gordon Brown was defeated in 2010 and the first to be elected since Tony Blair in 2005. So joining us from London this morning is CTV News senior political correspondent Mike LeCouture. My beautiful shot behind you this morning, Mike. The people of Britain have heard just now from their newest Prime Minister. He campaigned on change, and it really came in a big way. You must be feeling confident. He gained over 200 seats over their last run. What is the reaction in London this morning?
Yeah, I think a lot of people expected this type of change, maybe not this type of landslide. When you consider Labour took 412 of the 650 seats in the UK Parliament. Some of the figures are still coming in, some of those votes still to be counted. But I think when you consider how that change came about, when you look at the actual percentage of the vote, that I think is the interesting part in all of this, Anne-Marie. They went up by less than 2%. Labour did. Then you had the Conservatives who went down by 20%. So you say to yourself, where did all of those votes go in terms of actual percentage? Well, Reform UK, who is headed by Nigel Farage, picked up about 12.3% of the vote. Wow. Only 4 seats in the House of Commons, but at the same time, it's a sign of where some of the votes are going and where the United Kingdom is going as well. Certainly, it will be a massive majority for the Labour Party, but there's also that undertone and that signal of how this country feels and where they are going in their sort of politics, and certainly Reform is siphoning some of that support away from the Conservatives.
Yeah, a loss by the Conservatives of 250 seats. I mean, that's definitely something to examine. Speaking of the Conservatives, Rishi Sunak announced that he is going to, he has formally resigned as the Prime Minister. I want to play for everybody what he had to say this morning.
I have given this job my all, but you have sent a clear signal that the government of the United Kingdom must change, and yours is the only judgment that matters.
Yeah, he also added, I have heard your anger. What drove the Conservatives' unpopularity in this race?
Well, it's just been so long that they've been in power, right, Anne-Marie? 14 years, 5 prime ministers, and in the last 3 really have not been remarkable for any of the right reasons. Boris Johnson holding all of those COVID-19 pandemic parties, then Liz Truss, who came in with a highly unpopular budget, which in fact saw her only last about 50 days, and then Sunak, who came in and inherited all of that baggage from years past. That was one of his difficulties. Then, of course, when he left the D-Day ceremony early to come back to the UK, while a number of other world leaders did stay, including Keir Starmer, the opposition leader, who stayed with all of those other world leaders. It did not reflect well on him. And then, of course, there was that betting scandal. So he launches the election campaign. Then we are hearing that in some of his inner circle, a number of his security guards and some of his staff had bet on the actual election date. So all of that really sort of culminated in the electorate saying, we are done with the Conservatives. And, Anne-Marie, it really is that sort of signal and that wave that is going across not only Europe, but in other parts of the world as well, where they want that type of change. And after 14 years, Brits clearly thought that the Conservatives were tired and they needed to get out of the way of power.
Yeah, Mike, you mentioned and highlighted some of the scandals, but really it's what's underneath those that drove this massive change. We're talking policy here. So what are some of the major policy directions that are a change that we can expect from Starmer's government?
Yeah, well, Starmer has said, look, we're going to make this a government for the people and for working people. So trying to sort of continue on with that left-leaning message and making sure that they're doing this in service of the people. A number of the things that he has to tackle, of course, is inflation and the cost of living crisis, the issues that they continue to deal with the healthcare system. Those are 2 top of mind. I think for Canadians, though, one of the interesting things is that there's that Canada-UK free trade agreement. They need to continue those conversations conversations. They had stopped because the United Kingdom had walked away from the table back in January. There is a concern over the amount of UK cheese that they want to send into Canada. Canada, of course, trying to put up a roadblock on that one. So we had spoken to the High Commissioner for Canada here in the United Kingdom, and he said he hopes that those discussions will continue and will restart soon, hoping that now it's a new government, maybe it's a clean slate, and none of that baggage from the past will come to the table the next time they do meet. But that is one of the things I think a lot of Canadians will be looking to right now as this new government begins his work in earnest, because unlike in Canada, where we have a little bit of time to sort of game out who will be in cabinet, those first cabinet ministers will be named in the next few hours and going to get to work right away.
Okay. Well, and you mentioned our relationship, Justin Trudeau, among one of the first world leaders to share a message, calling Prime Minister Starmer my friend and hoping to build a progressive, fair future. Michael Couture, thanks so much for your coverage this morning from London.
Thanks, Anne-Marie.
All right.
Hey, thanks for watching. If you liked this, be sure to subscribe here, or you can check out more Your Morning videos right here.